a number of people holding proxy votes to a day. If you're happy that Nick's had them all, and he's done me a list here and registered them, and I'll simply read them from the sheet, but if you have any doubt, I'm happy for you to raise your votes. So, in terms of proxy votes, those in favour of the motion are 41, those against 2, abstaining 6, and there were 7 undetermined. Okay, on that basis, that motion is carried. Moving on to the second resolution from Douglas Gillard. Doug, do you want to read it?
Oh, I can't see it from here.
We request that within a period of 4 weeks from the date of this annual general meeting, the Board of the Exeter City Supporters Trust direct the Board of Exeter City Football Club to clarify whether the employment contract between Mr. Paul Tisdale, football manager, and Exeter City Football Club incorporates a clause that sets out the details relating to any termination of said contract, and specifically the term of notice required to be given in such circumstances. Should such a clause be proven to exist, the Board of Exeter City Supporters Trust shall immediately instruct the Board of Exeter City Football Club that notice be served on Mr. Paul Tisdale in line with the appropriate and relevant terms of the contract, with the purpose of securing an alternative contract that will best protect the financial interests and security of the football club and be acceptable to both parties jointly and individually. Doug, do you want to speak to the motion?
I have. I've written this was written on the train. I haven't plagiarised the club chairman. There's a few similarities. First of all, I'll let the AGM note the fact that there was no disclosure has been requested on that motion. I know it was mentioned in the press over the week, on I think it was Thursday, because it's not my wish that any confidential information should be made public. If the motion passes, I have every faith that the trustees will act efficiently and with due diligence to submit a simple "we can, we can't." Part one is simple. I don't think it's beyond the trust board to get a yes or no answer. You're acting on the owners of the club, so you should be party to that information.
I mean, what I can say is that, yes, Paul Tisdale's contract does have a notice period in it, and the trust board are aware of that term.
Right.
So I can say that.
Right, I haven't got too much. People say that the biggest elephant in the room is our home form. The biggest issue for some years on the internet and social media is the 2-year roller. I think the internet can be a nasty place, and I was going to mention Mr. Julian Tagg and commend his admirable restraint in what people say about him online with regards to club funds. But obviously he's left. I've been reading the same post for years and years, and saying, why can't we do it, why can't we do it, why can't we do it? So I personally looked at the situation, tried to look at it from all sides. Is it beneficial to the manager? Is it beneficial to the club? Obviously a lot of the fans don't think it's beneficial to them. And it's my decision that it kind of doesn't work. It was put in there for a reason, and I think the reason was to protect our biggest asset. And I looked at it and I thought someone has to take the decision, maybe be the bad guy and get this elephant off of the internet and actually into the room and discussed.
Can I just pick up on one thing? Obviously there has been a debate on social media about this. I was phoned up by the press in the week about it. But just looking at the final 2 lines, it talks about renegotiating the contract with the purpose of securing an alternative contract that will best protect the financial interests and security of the football club and be acceptable to both parties jointly and individually. Now, is there not a difficulty about mandating us, obliging us to do something and making it acceptable to a third party? We can't force a third party to be happy with the terms of any new contract.
We don't have the option to review.
So
it isn't this choice about the purpose of doing that. The purpose of giving very possible
that depends on the reading. I think you can read it, but I'll be back because I just wanted to raise that. Okay, does anyone else want to speak in favour of the resolution?
This isn't a witch hunt. It's about financial and operational business prudence. If the salary is as reported, it's almost 3 times what the apparent national average is.
It's nothing to do with the
I
money
don't
bill.
think. I don't think for me that is an acceptable decision to have been made to continue at that level. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that he has to go. It just means that it's just a bad business decision. Even if we take into account the reasons for it first coming into place, it doesn't affect the fact that actually with hindsight, which it wasn't a good idea. I don't think it's not a witch hunt. It's just a matter of business prudence.
It's not about his salary. I mean, I think Mr. O'Brien in a meeting a few years ago, when someone asked about Paul Tisdale's salary, he sort of said if he opens his mouth, then it could be grounds for constructive dismissal. So it's not about divulging anything. It's about sorting out, can we do this? Should we do this? And one of the things I was reflecting and thinking about was, everyone said that Paul Tisdale lost his mojo a little bit after the Portsmouth interview. And could it have been a case that he's the best man for the job? Paul Tisdale's at Exeter, he did it for us. I mean, what he did for us happened very quickly, within a space of a few years. And then we had sort of a barren, very few years. So he goes to Portsmouth, he gets them promoted. Yep, he's back in the big time, people look at him again. But would Portsmouth, they're not rich anymore, would they have bought out 2 years of someone's contract on a punt? So he comes back knowing he didn't get that job because of that. I was slightly disavowed of this by one of the trust members at the hustings, but that was one of the things I was taking into account.
And I was phoned up by the Express and Echo Tuesday or Wednesday, who interviewed me for about 15, 20 minutes. They chose not to publish anything else that I said about the other sentences that I commented on. And I made it clear that I was commenting purely as a card-holding trust member, not in my capacity as chair. It's not something which there's been a trust meeting about since the resolution was put forward. And my concerns, I suppose, as a lawyer, were the issues of employment law, breach of confidential information. And so I put that forward, say purely in my capacity as a trust member. It's also the Express and Echo quoted one sentence from it, and even managed to get that one wrong. I think they quoted there was a trust board meeting on Thursday. In fact, there was a club board meeting on that Thursday. I can say that this resolution has not been debated at the club board. There's been no debate about it. But your resolution was passed to Terry Falco, our employment lawyer, associate director on the board. So what I'm going to read is purely his response to the resolution, and it's put forward as probably any lawyer would, without any debate or comment being made to him. And I say I'm simply here to read what Terry Falco has said. Employees of the club, whatever their level, are entitled by law to confidentiality as to their terms and conditions of employment. The club is engaged in a range of procedures with employees which it is carrying out. It is not permitted to disclose the nature of these processes, nor the identities of the individuals concerned. We can assure the trust that as a board we are ever vigilant as to the needs of the club and act accordingly. There was then a further email he sent specifically in regard to the issue of data protection. The Data Protection Act 1998 obliges employers to store and process personal information in a fair and proper way. In relation to employment contracts, a failure to treat this information properly and confidentially can be regarded as a criminal offence, and the Information Commissioner's Office can prosecute breaches under the Act. There are clear implications that once you reveal the personal details relating to an employee's status, salary, and any other terms and conditions particular to that employee, the club will set a precedent. Can any other employee, for example, any new manager, ever have trust and confidence in the club which is willing to disclose such confidential information in breach of its legal obligations? For clarity, the Data Protection Act also has rights for individuals who require the data controller to process any of the employee's material in a manner that does not cause damage or distress to him. Any such damage that is caused by a breach of the Act entitles them also to sue for what could be significant damages. In summary, the unlawful or illegal disclosure of data can lead to a prosecution, significant civil action and award of damages. I think the point you're making, Doug, is that you're not necessarily asking for the disclosure of confidential information.
No, just a simple yes or no.
Nothing in the motion is required.
Well, I think
All the trustees are obviously bound.
I think the issue is how do we satisfy if this was passed, how do we satisfy the members that we have carried it out without disclosing confidential information?
You say yes or no.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, we have to put our trust in the trustees. That's what we have to do. And, you know, I mean, I think if there, I don't honestly think if there was a yes, we can do this, just say we can't. Just to, you know, I don't think that would ever happen. I think, you know, you are responsible for the members, and I think you'll do a great job. But, you know, it is a case of we found we could not do that at this time, or yes, we have done it and it has been done.
Can we go to Roger and then Peter? Roger.
Can I simplify this? I think this motion is saying, please, Trust, look at Mr. Tisdale's contract and sort it out. The lawyer's statement you just read is persuading to vote in favour of this motion.
Several points really. Firstly, Lawrence has just said that there is a notice period. The second point is, without playing lawyers, I think the last part of paragraph 1, specifically the term of notice required to be given in such circumstances, is a request for specific information as opposed to generic information. The next point is that the email that Lawrence has just read out, particularly the last part of it about the Data Protection Act. I'm not a Data Protection Act guy. Terry is the employment lawyer. If that advice is correct, what this resolution is asking the club board to do is to act illegally, not in breach of a contract. What this resolution is asking the club board to do is act against the criminal law of this country.
In what way?
In breach, because it's the advice we've had is that disclosure pursuant to this resolution is in breach of the Data Protection Act, and that's
It's just a yes, we
a
can.
disclosure to the trust board.
That advice was in the abstract. It made no reference to this resolution. That is, you know, that looks to me like a tactic to divert.
It's not a tactic,
But why didn't it refer directly to this resolution, as it could have done, and then you could have made an even more clear-cut case for what they're saying?
I'm just telling you the advice that I've got, that I've read.
Your view. Who's your
I'm
advisor?
expressing my
You're not a
view.
lawyer. Are you a lawyer?
Yes.
You are. Fine. So
I'm relying on the expert advice that the
Can
board
I just
has.
ask you to keep your voice up?
Yes, I'm relying on the expert advice that the board of the club board has received. That's all. I'm not an expert employment lawyer. I'm not an expert commercial lawyer. But I rely on experts. That's
I
what
think
you
you're
do.
relying on your interpretation, and at the Hustings event you were very keen on not reinterpreting things.
I don't think you can be clearer. I don't think you can be clearer than the last sentence of that legal advice, which I can bring up on my phone, or Lawrence can reread if he gets it quicker. The last point is in relation to 2. What clearly there is a perception that the club is at risk because of the perceived longevity of the notice period of Mr. Tisdale's contract. I'm just taking up Lawrence's point. It's difficult to see how one can get to a satisfactory resolution without one party having less protection than they used to.
I'm going to go to Tom, then Andy, and then
My point is just that my understanding was said that you're not asking that information to be made public to the members. But as a majority shareholder, first of all, we control how the business is run in appointing boards. Would you be comfortable with individuals having a majority shareholder know the fine details of your own personal contract? The board has every right to look through everything, as they do because they run the business. But the majority shareholders are just the majority shareholders. Do the trustees, in terms of getting this communicated to them, is that in breach of contract? Because there's a specific employment contract issue that is being communicated to somebody outside of the business. Yes, they control the business, but the trust is not a club. So that's being communicated to extent. That's only my issue.
Andy?
First of all, I think we are addressing the elephants in the room.